What's going on, guys? I am here today to show you what I typically make on any given day for a balanced yet delicious lunch. Lunches for me are usually my first meal. Don't go off what I do. Intermittent fasting is not for everyone, but I just don't eat breakfast. So by that point in the day, I'm usually pretty hungry. And pasta is my absolute favorite food. You can basically customize it any way that you want and or what you have in the pantry. I just so happen to have the ingredients for this specific pasta dish on hand. So let's do a little quickie. So we got to start with the list of ingredients, kitchen equipment, and how we do our mise en place, which is French for fuck. What's it called? Let me Google it real quick here. Yes, mise en place. Everything in its place, which is basically just laying out everything ahead of time to not only make cooking seamless, but also clean up a lot easier, since you know what dishes you're going to clean ahead of time anyway. So, starting with our ingredients, we'll need, of course, your preferred dried box of pasta. I really enjoy penne and typically get Barilla brand, but like I said, if you have a pasta on hand, go with whatever you got. Then we have, yes, plain Greek yogurt. That's not only for a protein punch, since I don't really happen to have any chicken that was thawed on hand at this point, but also for a bit of tang. Kind of gives Alfredo vibes, but a little more dynamic in flavor. Trust me, giving it that little bit of tang. But we'll also need about 1.5 tablespoons of any butter that you have on hand, some kosher salt for seasoning our pasta water, garlic powder, red pepper flakes, black pepper, and dried oregano. And since I like to balance out my meals as much as possible, we already have the protein from the pasta and the Greek yogurt, the fat from the butter, and the yogurt, and the carbs from the pasta. Now, while the pasta does have fiber in it, I also like to get whole food fiber, mainly from fruits and vegetables, which not only have that fiber, but also have many good micronutrients that normally aren't found in some animal products, like vitamin C. So I'll usually just go for a whole bell pepper or one whole apple, both which have fiber, that vitamin C I was talking about, and a bunch of other micronutrients. But as far as equipment you will need a cutting board, a knife, a strainer. Mine's one of those collapsible ones, so storage is nice. We'll need a glass measuring cup of some kind. You'll see why later. We need a medium sauce pot to cook in, and finally a stirring device. In this case, I'm using these silicone tipped tongs, and that is our so-called mise en place for our lunch quickie today. Now let's move on to the recipe, if you could even call it that, since I really don't have exact measurements for most things. I start by filling a pot about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way up with water. Then I turn my most powerful burner on my stove to the highest it goes, just to boil the water a lot faster. While that boils, get the kosher salt ready to go for seasoning our pasta water once it's rolling. To measure how much pasta I'm making, I just eyeball it by pouring it into the bowl I'm planning on eating out of. The boiling of the water will take a bit, so we also have time to prepare our side veggie/fruit. I always make sure to rinse off any produce beforehand, so do that and dry it off. Then, using a cutting board and a knife, I slice 4 sides of the pepper off the core, getting as close to the white pith and seeds as possible. I've been doing this for so long, I basically never accidentally go too far in and start to cut the pith or the seeds. At this point, I can just feel it in my bones when I'm too close. Then, once we got all of our pepper cheeks laid out, I just like to cut them into relatively even strips. It's just more enjoyable to eat them that way. I also don't usually eat everything together, since I like to snack on the veggies while I'm cooking. Once the water is at a rolling boil, I generously salt it, using about 3 big pinches of that kosher salt, then add my pasta, setting a timer for 11 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 11 minutes for this specific penne pasta, but use the lowest time recommended on your box of nudes. Now, especially at the beginning, since pasta tends to stick more together within the first couple of minutes, you want to stir every so often. So now just get your spices and sauce ingredients ready. Just a reminder, I'm using about 1.5 tablespoons of butter, garlic powder, red pepper flakes, black pepper, dried oregano, and plain Greek yogurt. Don't forget to stir! And also have a little snack. I do be cooking though. Also get your drain station ready. For recipes where I need pasta water to make a sauce, I'll typically try to save as much as possible, unlike a lot of more experienced chefs where they know exactly how much pasta water they might need, since if I don't save enough, the rest will just go down the drain, so I'm flubbernucked at that point. So my setup for that is a larger glass measuring cup and the strainer on top, placing them in the sink. While cooking, I noticed it's starting to rain a bit outside, which kind of looked pretty and felt cozy, especially with all of the greenery outside our balcony. And all my pepper slices are gone. Fuck. Could have had a V8. Like I mentioned earlier, having this mise en place allows us to use each dish one at a time. So you can either wash it in the sink, or if you're lucky like me, put it in the dishwasher. There is a lot of downtime when boiling pasta, so this is the perfect opportunity to do some cleaning. I am really freaking hungry at this point in the video, so I'll check to see how much time I have left to see if it's worth going on in life. Hey Google, how much time is left on the timer?
2 minutes and 17 seconds to go.
Not too bad. Oh shit, it's finally done. Turn off the burner and drain the pasta, making sure to get as much pasta water into the measuring cup as possible. You'll definitely not need this much, but it's better to have more than not enough. You'll see why in a minute. Place your butter in the still hot pot. The residual heat should start melting the butter instantly. Then add your drained pasta to the butter. Swirl it around and do this sort of flipping motion. I know it seems dumb at first since you could just stir it without the possibility of making a mess, which I totally didn't do. Just disregard that footage. But this method really helps the butter and other creamy ingredients to incorporate better into a sauce without splitting it and turning it greasy. I then toss in my spices, afterwards stirring them to spread the goodness throughout. See how with just butter and spices, it's kind of not looking saucy enough. So let's remedy that. I then add a dollop of our plain Greek yogurt, which you'll see makes it much saucier looking, but there's one thing wrong. The pasta is pretty absorbent, so the sauce is too thick at the moment, more gloppy than glossy. That's where the pasta water comes in. Not only does the water thin out the sauce, but the starch left in the water from cooking the pasta makes the sauce more stable, creating what is known as an emulsion. Basically, when two incompatible substances, fat and water, are able to combine and stay in that form without splitting. Starches are great for forming emulsions. Think a basic roux, butter, and flour. Combining just milk and butter would lead to the fat globules in the butter to split from the water in the milk. So we do need that starchiness to hold the pasta sauce together. Now that we've added that splash of pasta water, I think we've nailed the consistency that we want. Look how fucking glossy and creamy that looks without being too runny or too gloppy. Err on the side of a little too runny because as it sits, the pasta will continue to absorb some more of the liquid as well as it just congealing a little more. So to make it more aesthetically pleasing, since this is YouTube after all, we're gonna pour it all into the awaiting bowl, top it with some more oregano, black pepper, and red pepper flakes. And that's about it, folks. Let's do a little taste. Like, look at how creamy that shit is. Oh, here we go. That's way too good for how easy that is. Just go away. Let me and this pasta have a little alone time.